The day before our wedding in Russia, I left Nadia's passport on the roof of the car. Looking back, it began with one of those small, ordinary mistakes that seem harmless at the time. The sort of thing you only realize later has consequences. We were preparing for our wedding in Russia. The ceremony was the next day. In that folder, the one I placed on the roof of the car while we were getting organized, was Nadia's internal passport, the document without which the wedding simply could not happen. At the time, it felt like just another thing to keep track of amid the usual pre-wedding bustle. Papers, arrangements, small practical details. But of course it was far more than that. I put the folder on the roof while sorting something out, and then I forgot it was there. We got in. We drove off. For a while, everything seemed normal until that quiet question began to surface. Where is the passport? I remember the slow, creeping realization, followed by that unmistakable sinking feeling as we understood what must have happened. The folder had been left on the roof, and with it came the possibility that the wedding might not happen the next day. I tried to stay calm, focusing on what we could do next, but Nadia was crying, understandably, and then very quickly she did something decisive. She suggested contacting the local television station. It was a practical idea where if someone had found the folder, a news announcement might reach them. So Nadia called, explained the situation, and before long, a small crew arrived at the flat, setting up lights and asking questions about how the passport had gone missing. Not long after, while they were still filming, there was a knock at the door. Standing there were three young lads, each slightly taller than the last, holding the folder. Nadia quietly explained that they were homeless and had taken the trouble to bring the folder back after finding it. Seeing her name and address inside, they came straight to the flat to return it. Only later did we realize just how much effort that must have taken. A simple act of honesty from people who had very little themselves. Only later did we learn that they had found the folder across the Volga from us and had walked nearly 3 miles to bring it back. Quite a journey, especially given their circumstances. For a moment, we were simply relieved, almost speechless. And then Nadia leaned toward me and quietly whispered, "Give them something." I reached into my wallet and pulled out a $20 note. Nadia glanced at it, then leaned in again and whispered, "More." The next note was $100. She nodded. I swallowed, then handed it to them. They seemed slightly embarrassed by the attention. It felt like the right thing to do. Gratitude doesn't come with a price list. The television crew captured the moment, relief replacing anxiety, turning what could have been a disaster into a small story about kindness. We got married the next day, passport safely back where it belonged, and my alleged plan to stop the wedding had clearly failed. Just before the ceremony, I leaned over and said quietly, "Blast, my plan failed, and it cost me $100. She laughed. It was the first time we'd properly laughed since the whole saga began. About 2 weeks before the wedding, we were walking through the Kremlin grounds in Nizhny, enjoying the quiet and the sense of history. Among the displays of old military equipment was a BA-64B Scout armored car, a small four-wheeled vehicle with a turret and machine gun, and Nadia told me to climb up and stand on it. "Raise your right hand," she said. So I did, trying to look suitably heroic while she took a photo. When she lowered the camera, she laughed and said, "There, you look like Lenin." He stood in a similar pose. You look just like him." I wasn't entirely sure whether to take that as a compliment. Later it struck me as faintly amusing that Lenin's wife was also called Nadia. The ceremony itself was conducted entirely in Russian, which meant that for most of it I stood there listening respectfully while understanding very little of what was being said. The official spoke at length, formal and deliberate, and every so often he would pause, look directly at me, and wait. That was my cue. "Duh," I replied each time. I decided it was best not to improvise. I couldn't help thinking back to Nadia's earlier joke that I looked a bit like Lenin, and I certainly didn't want to trigger a revolution by mistake. Nadia, of course, understood every word, while I focused on keeping my composure and trusting that everything was proceeding as it should. Our wedding reception was held on a boat moored on the Volga, with the Kremlin walls visible on the hill above, solid and timeless, watching quietly over the river. After the anxiety of the previous day, there was something deeply reassuring about being there, surrounded by water and open sky, celebrating with family and friends. As the reception got underway, it quickly became clear that everyone else was far more experienced in the traditions than I was, well, particularly when it came to vodka. Someone would stand up, say a few words in Russian, there would be a cheer, and everyone would take a generous swallow. Then another person would rise, another toast, another cheer, another drink. It went on like that, laughter, speeches, and glasses, raised again and again. It became clear that moderation was largely theoretical. As the evening unfolded, I noticed something that puzzled me at the time. After drinking, several of the men would lift their arm and briefly sniff their sleeve, a small gesture that seemed completely natural to them but entirely mysterious to me. Only later did I understand it as one of those small cultural habits you notice long before you fully grasp their meaning. Looking around, seeing friends and family celebrating, hearing laughter, watching the river move quietly past. There was a real sense of joy and a feeling that everything had somehow settled into place. And somehow it all worked out.